Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the start of another week in FPRL. Kicking things off once again, of course, is our Tier 3 drivers, and tonight it's round 8 of Season 3 around the legend that is the Silverstone circuit. On the calendar for over 70 years, this 3.6 mile long track comprises of 18 turns, 10 to the right, 8 to the left. Uncharacteristic of a clockwise circuit, perhaps some evidence to show how unique of a challenge this circuit really is. Iconic corners such as Maggots and Beckett's, which are that iconic that even a couple of other tracks on the calendar have attempted to recreate the challenge this sequence of corners presents. Our championship leader, Seddon69, no qualifying ban for him this time out, but he's only a handful of points away from a potential race ban, so we'll surely be trying to keep it clean today to preserve his championship lead. Can Tadas, his teammate, keep up with him in the driver's standings? Alfa Romeo as a team currently leading the Constructors' Championship by 48 points, so they will be leaving here no matter what happens, still in the lead of the championship. But TJM, good evening, thanks for joining me on comms once again this evening. First of all, how are you? Second of all, do you think that the McLaren pairing of FPRL Locker and I'm Not Good can do anything today to tackle the force that is the Tier 3 Alfa Romeo drivers?
Yeah, good evening, Biddle. I'm good, thanks. I hope you're well. Yeah, McLaren boys. You've definitely got the pace, but I do think the Alfa Romeo boys are ahead.
He's on the sauce. We are about 2 minutes in. We've got a mistake already.
Yeah, I think the Alfa Romeo boys are just one step ahead of, to be honest, the rest of the field. We know the pace of Sneddon, as you mentioned, he's championship leader, and Tadas as well. I think he's been a bit unlucky recently, but if he hooks up a good lap, he's definitely up there as well.
Definitely, yeah. And as we've seen coming into qualifying, then a bit of rain. I know there was a bit of discussion before the race. Lots of drivers not wanting these kind of conditions. Do you think there's any drivers in the field from what we've seen so far current Tier 3 that might surprise us in these wet conditions? Obviously, we don't know how long it's going to last into qualifying, but especially the opening part of qualifying.
Apologies for having TS9 to the game. I mean, obviously we have got the usual, as we've just got a stranger in the party. There we go. Yeah, so we've got the usual people of you know, Adrian, Sneddon's, Tadas is up there as well, but and Nigel Pigley, can't write him off. But keep a close eye on your. Oh no. I'm gonna put I'm Not Good up there. You know, he has shown some good pace. So assume he can keep a good lap in there. I'm expecting him there. I'm just trying to look up and down the grid as well. Mongo. I can't remember what he's been doing, but I suppose in these conditions anything can happen. It's a case of Jordan's keep on the track. But it is going to be tough breaking into some probably top 4, top 5 drivers that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, Mongo will be looking to definitely try and prove himself. He's been a little bit behind in qualifying and race, it should be said. In recent weeks, he has scored some points so far as Bad Time crosses the line. 37.7 from the Red Bull driver, the only driver who's set a time so far then. And as I was saying about Mongo, yeah, I think he'll want to improve his performance in qualifying and the race. And hopefully, in these wet conditions, he might look then to take advantage of those. Diamond Douchey, we'll say, has retired already. That's due to a qualifying ban that he picked up last week in Canada. But while we're talking about him then, it was P2 last week in qualifying, P3 for him in the race. Do you think he's got the pace to come from the back of the field and perhaps get up to the podium if possible?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, he showed a lot of pace last week. I think safety cars played a big part in swapping him. There was a few safety cars. I think he caught at the right time. But still not writing him off. I do expect him to cut through the back markers definite and game stop into the top 10, and I imagine that he'll be one challenging the top 5 and try to get back on the podium if he can.
Yep, and There's every chance he can do that, obviously depending on the conditions. Forced maneuver across the line with a 39.8 to go, just behind David Lawface, who set a similar time, then 7th place and slowest out of the drivers who have set a time so far. His teammate T-Jerk, OMT T-Jerk, he'll definitely be looking for an improvement, of course. We speak about it often, but Tier 1 driver last season into Tier 3 this season. Surely, though, fingers crossed for him, he can find some form towards the end of the calendar, because he did show that towards the end of Tier 1 last season.
Yeah, he did, and we spoke about TJ quite a bit over the races, to be honest. I mentioned how he perhaps hasn't carried that form through, but I do think we have seen improvement from him in the past couple of races for definite. And yeah, hopefully he can show a bit more improvement today, especially in these tricky conditions.
He crosses the line, but his time was invalidated on the final sector, running wide after the straight. Is that the Hanger straight? I get confused with the Hanger. There's Hamilton. I get confused. We're not good at quarter names nor numbers here on Wednesday night commentary. But he is going for another run, of course, on the intermediate tyres. I'm not good. Fastest at the moment for McLaren, 1:37.4. You tipped him to show a bit of pace. And it's a good lap from him so far to be provisionally fastest in this Q1 session. And as I say that, Tadas, who we mentioned earlier on, goes just fractionally faster than him to post a time that takes him top of the standings. Nigel Piggle then 3rd place. Yeah, Nigel Piggle, I think, we haven't seen the best of him in the recent couple of races. You think he was outside the points and DNF'd, in fact, in the last couple. But before that was getting wins and podiums. Do you think we'll see something from him today, or do you think he'll kind of continue the trend? Can he break the curse, do you think, of these non-point scoring finishes?
I do think he'll break the curse today. I think he has learned his lesson, especially from last race. I know he wasn't happy while he went out, and he's had time to reflect on it. But I do think we'll see him back up there in the points again. As we said, he's posted a decent time of 1:37 flat, pretty much. So yeah, I do think we'll see him back up there on the podium, I imagine, as well. He certainly won't want to go with 3rd race fault points, especially if he wants to keep a fight up for the championship.
Yep, he will want to tag onto those championship leaders, Snedden and FPRL Locker. You can see he hasn't set a time yet. We are riding with Snedden at the moment, who's kept it clean so far through Sector 1, just coming through Woodcut now, coming down to Copse Corner, of course, and everything changes, of course, in these wet conditions. And you're really going to see here the drivers that have practiced in those wet conditions. As you can see, taking it so careful through cuts. Magnussen Beckers is the real challenge, is what he's approaching now, of course. This is the famous corner that everybody struggles with notoriously. A bit of connection issues there, but he seems to have not impaired him on his lap, and he avoids invalidation. A couple of slow cars ahead of him, Nigel Piggle and an Aston Martin of some sort is Soprano Legend, who's 5th at the moment with a 37.6, obviously on a cool-down lap. Then will ride with Snedden till the end of this lap. Then he's kept it clean, unlike T-Jerk managed to earlier on. Then through the final couple of corners, now has to keep it close to the inside here, avoid running wide, otherwise you'll invalidate this lap and the next. Crosses the line, it's a 1:37.5 from the Alfa Romeo to go P6.
Yeah, fantastic lap from him again. One driver we haven't really spoke about, I forgot about him. Willie Bum posted a decent time there in P2 at 1:37.1. This driver's definitely shown an improvement in the past couple of races. I'm just trying to get the results up from Canada, but I believe he was up there fighting as well. So yeah, that's another driver keeping an eye on, I think.
Yeah, definitely a name that went under the radar in the early session discussion, but 37.1 perhaps going to be one of those drivers to take advantage of the wet conditions. Panic M there going 16th with a 39.1 for Aston Martin. As we see, we saw TS9 invalidate slightly through Sector 1, unfortunately. His lap now invalid, he'll have to go around again, of course. I imagine the drivers will have fueled up rather heavy, I should say. through qualifying. And just kind of leave it out there. Obviously, we don't know the conditions up here in the commentary box, but you'd imagine that these intermediates would survive at least 2 or 3 fast runs, TJ.
Yeah, definitely. That's I think we had to comment to someone earlier in the season where the drivers were just really setting one lap and coming back in. We questioned it then, but I definitely find on intermediate tyres you fuel yourself up for 5-6 laps and you just continue going round because you get rubbed in, you lose the fuel and you pick the pace up that way.
Nigel Pickle goes past for the 36.8. FPRL Locker might be impeded by TS9 there. Just pulls out the way in time, I think, there. And he manages to set a 37.4 to take him from 19th up to 4th place then for McLaren. So that Alfa Romeo McLaren scrap does look pretty tasty at the moment. 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. But it is Nigel Pickle out in front at the moment for the Haas team. And Willy Bum, as we mentioned, in 2nd place at the moment. The only driver not to set a time is this man, TS9. Currently coming through Sector 1. Hasn't put a time in yet. Of course, Diamond Douchey going out at the early part with his qualifying ban. We will only lose 4 more drivers, of course, so there's a little bit more of a leeway for the drivers in terms of getting through to Q2. I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet, TJ. At least I've not noticed it, really. Anybody going round at all?
No, I haven't. So, the driver's doing a really good job. I mean, there's a few places in the dry you can definitely drop it in the wet. Obviously, it makes it a lot harder. Perhaps coming out to turn 1, that can be a pain point in. Coming into Fox as well, that's a bit of an easy place to spin it. As I think Adrian's just dropped it. I think he had just right on board of tyres. I think he's dropped it coming out of this corner.
Yeah, just outside of Woodcock. I don't know how he's managed to go into the wall there. That's a very strange place to put it into the barrier.
Yeah,
very
definitely.
Strange race.
He'll be disappointed with that because Adrian's been showing some really good pace recently as well, and he's up in that championship battle. So he'll be really gutted that he's out in Q1.
Well, I've got him on notes here actually, that obviously he won the race last week despite him being in the wars in terms of front wings, etc. He took pole position, I think it was, by nearly half a second in Canada. We were kind of expecting to see some good pace from here, but clearly then, one of the drivers that's been found out from the poor conditions.
Yeah, you just have to keep his head down now, get himself ready for the race. Obviously, we don't know the conditions for the race, we don't know if it's going to continue raining or not. But I imagine he's going to be wanting a dry race, given that he's already dropped it in the rain.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get some word from Adrian if he's around as to what happened there. As I said, a bit of a strange place for him to drop the car really into the wall there. Quite catch it on the stream, so it'd be interesting to see just where he lost the car for him to end up there on the track. We're on board with Active Fox at the moment. I don't know if he's raced before in Tier 3. I know he's been absent for a couple of weeks, he's had a holiday. Hope it was a good holiday, Active Fox, but you're back in the driver's seat now and you're putting in a 37.2 to go 3rd fastest.
I do believe you have seen Active Fox race. I think, from rightly, it was around Portimao, and he was one of the unfortunate Mercedes that kept spinning it.
You'd know as head steward, of course. That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing you look for. Riding on board with Mongo at the moment, coming through the box, says there is an Alpine round, I think. Just for a second, 2 and 3, Nigel Pickle retires, but he's in the pits, and he will continue on into Q2, of course. Let's watch Mongo through Magnussen. Beckett saying keeping it clean so far. 9th at the moment with 37.5. He's about 5 tenths in the good at the moment to David Lowface, of course. Skibbett, though, has retired from 15 for 38.2. Imagine there's some drivers behind him. TJ Company can definitely, even Force Majeure maybe, that could get close to that and put him out of Q1. Retiring very early in the session. Mongo now coming across the line. Let's see if he can improve on his time, and does slightly to go 7th with a 37.3 then.
Yeah, good luck from him as well. I'm just having a look at the Twitch chat, and it's nice to see some drivers in there. Mrs. Locker, nice to see you again. I'm not good. Collateral lads, Adrian, all in the chat as well. Inside information from Mrs. Locker is that Mr. Locker is very poorly this week. So,
Very poorly! Oh, he's very poorly.
Yeah, but even so, he's still putting a good lap in at with P8 there currently.
P8 and carrying an illness, well... What on earth has Sebastian Vettel got to complain about now?
For sure. And inside information from Adrian is that he come out, he exited the corner, went fifth gear, and basically put his foot to the floor too quickly. Lost it, tried to correct it, and lost it again.
Oh dear, that will do that to you, Adrian. And now you're going to have to come on a charge through the field. Obviously at the moment you will start no higher than 17th at the moment, depending on what Panic End and Force Manure can do. We're watching T-Jerk at the moment, very tentative there, coming through now into the final sector. Needs to find about half a second at the moment to get ahead of David Lowface, put Skivit down and give himself a bit of safety. Doesn't look like it's going to be a very good lap though from the Alpine. Crosses the line to 39.5, just slower. Well, actually, he's done a 38.4. I thought it was a 39.4 then. For seconds, it was over a second slow. But obviously, he can go around again and try and get a better time in. Panic End is half a second up for the first sector though, TJ.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on him. He's keeping it nice and clean throughout the lap, I've noticed so far. Once again, I haven't seen much of Panic End, to be honest, but I think what we have seen from him, he has been a pretty quick driver. As Snedden takes the fastest lap so far of a 1:36.7. But yeah, like I say, imagine Panic End will definitely knock Skivit out. I have seen David Lawface is out as well, and Latvia must feel safe where he is currently as well. So it's all to play for still in his last minute or so.
Very much so. Tadas third fastest with a 1:37.0. 3/10 off his teammate, still can't quite plug that gap to him and his teammate, but Alfa Romeo first and third at the moment. We're still with Panic End then. 18th at the moment. Can he squeeze his way into Q2? 15 seconds left. He'll get another lap if he wants to take it, but crosses the line. And 16th only, a 38.4. Big improvement on his time, but not in terms of positions. As I mentioned, he will be able to go again. T-Jerk now is 4/10 up. Will that be enough? It looks like it might just be to get ahead of Skivit. Perhaps even challenge David Lowface in 14th at the moment. Crosses the line now, T-Jerk, and goes 13th fastest. 37.9. Make that 14th as the Williams of Hobnob comes through and goes 37.6 then to go 11th. Who's in danger at the moment? David Lowface isn't improving on his time, so it might all come down to Panic End. But he's currently 2/10 down through the first sector.
David Lawface does go quick, puts himself back up to P14.
A mega final sector from David Lowface, and he was down through sector 2 but improved final part of the lap by a 10 to pit T-Jerk to 14th place and T-Jerk down to 15th. Panic End then is the only driver who can change the order at the moment, coming now through Beckett's. But looks very tentative, doesn't look like he's got the car underneath him at all. And he's 6/10 down on his Delta, and I think we can pretty confidently say that Panic End will not be through to Q2.
Yeah, definitely. I imagine, again, I'm not talking Q1 pretty disappointing, but I could probably be obviously expecting a bit more here. I mean, obviously the biggest shock of all this is that Adrian is out in Q1.
Yep, indeed. Hit the nail on the head there. Adrian out in Q1, despite taking pole by half a second last week. For everybody that tuned in to watch that race around Montreal, he will take no further part in qualifying. It was indeed Snedden who took the fastest time for Q1, just over a tenth ahead of Nigel Piggel in P2. Those two look like they're going to have another duel here once again around Silverstone. Tadas P3 over 3/10, as I mentioned, off from his teammate I'm Not Good, and FPRL Locker in the McLaren's 9th They need to finish ahead of the Alfa Romeos today if they want to try and plug that gap in the constructors. TS9, a good time to get himself up into 5th place there with a 1:37.1. The 5 drivers we lose from the early parts of qualifying: Skivit 92, Panic End, Adrian HO3, Force Manure, and Diamond, who we mentioned before had that qualifying ban in the opening session then. And let's go to the Twitch chat, of course, as we always do. Between Q1 and Q2, seriously, I should mention Laura Locker here once again. Mrs. Locker, thank you for letting us know about your other half's illness. Clearly you're going to have to make him feel better in some way later on. No idea how that could be. Adrian says having a drive setup didn't help. Well, yeah, on a wet track. And if anything's to go off in this chat, TJ, in the stream, is that a lot of people seem to be saying it's going to be a wet race. I think that's Willy Bum there saying, of course, we get a wet race at Britain. So I'm not too sure why Adrian would put that dry setup on without the downforce. Of course, that might have been his struggle. TS9 saying that he was happy with his time, P3, P4, P5 eventually in the end, but good time from him, yeah. Nigel Pickle saying Snedden has serious connection issues. I think we have noted that a couple of times on the stream. Let's keep an eye on that for the rest of qualifying at least. And there's not too much else going down, so let's rejoin the action in Q2 then. Bad Tom out early again, TJ. You're surprised to see Bad Tom in the second part of qualifying. He hasn't, no disrespect to Bad Tom, but he hasn't had the best qualifying pace so far, but he has made it through.
Yeah, I think that's obviously the next things that obviously Diamond's retired. We don't know Diamond's true pace, but we know he was good last week. Obviously Adrian, he was out as well. So there was a couple of factors in there, but yeah, hands down to Bad Tom to get through to Q2, and hopefully he's going to show us how much pace he has got. Obviously, it's a bit of a unique skill for some of the drivers to be able to go fast in the wet. It does take a certain degree of concentration, and you've got to have that little bit more technical skill, especially if the back end goes on you. So yeah, so maybe Bad Tom's one of them drivers that is under the radar, but will shock us come to Q3 maybe.
Well, TJ, as you were giving that elaborate speech on Bad Tom, you were giving the best speech there about Bad Tom, bigging him up.
Okay. Yeah, nice on Bad Tom. Cheers for that, lad.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Oh god. You're just picking him up so much there. I saw it as he was coming out to Woodcut. He just, for some reason, just drove into the old pit lane and just sat there at the barrier.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, that's good. I think that's going to go on to the end of season stream, that one. Oh, that's brilliant.
Cheers, what Bad Tom, mate, yeah.
TJ's little monologue there on how Bad Tom might shock us here in Q3. Yeah, he's done that. He's got himself disqualified early on. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to being professional then. Oh, that's that was yeah. Anyway, Soprano Legend then. Let's get that. So it took 11 minutes left of Q2. I don't want to put a time in just yet. Soprano Legends navigating Nuggets and Becky. It doesn't look like there's been any improvement in the weather into the second part of qualifying. Gives you a terrible camera angle here. Down the straight, there we go. Yeah, Soprano Legend. Looking okay through. I'm still thinking about Bad Tom. Oh dear. Coming around the final sector now. Let's see what time he can put in. Swills are on 38.2. Nice to see him back this week. Soprano Legend 37.9 there. And goes provisionally fastest. I'm assuming we'll see some quicker times than that, unless the weather really has got worse. And there we go, Mongo with a 37.5 for Red Bull. His teammates just dropped out of the session, unfortunately. We'll see if he joins before the end of qualifying. Hobnob goes second with a 1:37.8, and Willybum continues that pace we saw in Q1 to go provisionally fastest of the 5 drivers to set a time so far, 1:37.5, just pipping Mongo by 2 thousandths of a second. And Snedden, there we go, that's probably the first benchmark for the drivers like Nigel Piggle to aim at. 36.8 then, what a lap from him.
Yeah, I mean, to be doing that on his first lap, that says the conditions of. I mean, I'm not good at 36 times, so conditions are improving for definite. Yeah, maybe we'll see it a bit closer to the 36th lap, maybe as the track starts to dry up a little bit more, hopefully, and the drivers start getting them tyres in.
Nigel Piggle negotiating the final few corners now. Let's see if he can get anywhere close to I'm Not Good. Slime crosses the line and smashes it then by over 4/10, the 1:36.3 from him. What a time. Is he back to form then? As I mentioned, a couple of DNFs and outside the points finishes in the last 2 races. But before that, constantly on the podium with wins in that mix as well. Fastest so far in Q2. Has he found the pace in the wet then? FPRL Locker around the final quarter himself now a 37.5. He might need to go again on that time. We'll come back to that in a minute. TJ, we've got some more drivers coming across the line now. Hobnob can't improve over a 10th down on his time, and Willybum improves very slightly with a 1:37.4. I think we've got Tadas over the line now. A 1:36.6 then to go second fastest. What I was going to say, TJ, as Snedden goes just behind his teammate, is what do you think the cutoff is going to be? Obviously, in the wet conditions, we've got a little bit less information, because I don't think we've obviously raced this track less, of course, in wet conditions. But I don't know if you have a kind of time that you think drivers might feel like they're safe on this Q2 session.
I'm looking about Locker's time, the 1:37.5. I think around that time you're probably safe. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's so hard to try cooler times. We don't know if the conditions are getting better, if they're getting worse. Obviously, we haven't ran much around here. And given also the guys were towards the back end of Q1 that who were perhaps struggling to get into the 37s, that the 1:37.5 is probably a really safe place to be.
Yeah, 37.5, yeah. I think as you mentioned with Locker's time at the moment, he might be thinking he probably will run again. I imagine the likes of TS9, maybe Hobnob and Soprano Legend, it wouldn't surprise me to see them put a time in and get themselves ahead of that. So I think you're right. I think Willybum 37.4 is looking good. And as we say that, Locker does improve to a 37.1 then, to the 5th fastest, and just over the line as well. Hobnob improves a 37.4 from him, slightly though from his previous time, but as you mentioned, yeah, that 37.5 becoming quickly kind of the benchmark. Mongo in 9th place now. Might think about running again, of course. Well, obviously though, TJ, if it is a wet race, as we're being given the information to believe it is, obviously they've got to try and make these intermediates last into the race as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mentioned in Q1 that the drivers tend to run the tyres a little bit, blow themselves up fuel, go around a couple of laps. But yeah, if it is a wet race and they start an intermediate, because obviously they'll start on the tyres they set the fastest lap on. And yeah, do guys want to run on 3-4 lap old tyres in a potential game?
Imagine not. Imagine the drivers that will leave this session and that went out in Q1 will have the tyre advantage, of course, into the race, as we see Nigel Piggle then improve on his already impressive benchmark, a 36.1 then. Are we seeing today what we saw last week from Adrian, where he had that half a second advantage over the rest of the field? Is this what we're seeing from Nigel Piggle at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely seeing that. He set in Q1. Obviously, he tries to constantly quicker, but that's a fantastic time. 1:36.1. That's going to be very hard to beat, and what a way to show your back as well, and that you are ready to take the fight at the championship again with half a second advantage over the rest of the field.
Yep, he'll just be hoping for a clean race. Not had too many of those recently, and perhaps he's been his own downfall a couple of times as well this season. His teammate Swalza on a fast lap now through Cops as Nigel Pickle gets very quickly out of the way, of course. Now we're going to see with a very, very watery camera lens Swalza come through Maggots and Beckinson, keeping it clean so far. Riding back on board and touching the grass slightly there. Of course, no DRS in the wet conditions, so we'll have the drag all the way down this straight. He's 3/10 up on his time at the moment. Looks like it might just be enough if he can keep himself clean through Sector 3 to get himself ahead of Soprano Legend at the moment, who is currently the driver in danger in 10th place. Coming through the final couple of corners now, Swilzer. Will he be able to get himself into a position provisionally into Q3? Crosses the line, and it's a 37.8 as predicted. Does push Soprano Legend down into 11th place, then, but Soprano Legend himself is on a fast lap at the moment.
Yeah, that 1:37.5 is like a real cut off there, and I didn't catch where Soprano was on his times, unfortunately. But he'll be hoping to get through into Q3. It is worth noting as well that Soprano is the new full-time driver for Aston Martin. So he is, like, even though it's into his first race, he is debuting as his first race as an Aston Martin driver. So he'll be hoping to impress and get some good points for the team now, as he does improve.
Wow. Yeah, crosses the line and just pushes Swilzer back into the bottom 5 then. Only by just shy of half a tenth then. So Soprano Legend provisionally into Q3, of course. We'll see if Swilzer goes again. He's currently down on his time at the moment. T-Jerk as well, just starting a lap now. He'll be hoping to get himself into the top 10 as well. Yeah, as you mentioned, Soprano Legend, of course, new full-time Aston Martin driver. I think he'll be disappointed that he's not got a teammate in this part of qualifying, but he's currently carrying the flag for Aston Martin in his first qualifying session. So we've got TS9 as well, also starting final lap. So you'd expect TS9 to have the pace here from what we saw in Q1 to get himself through into Q3.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I'm a bit confused about TS9 currently is that he left it really late to come out. So he hasn't given himself much time to really embed them tyres, set good laps. So he has put himself under unnecessary pressure.
Yeah, he has done that. I can't see how long is left of the session, thanks to a very convenient yellow flag for, I think it's a retired car in the pits, believe it or not. I think Swalza retired from the session in the pit lane, as you should. There we go, just over 2 minutes left of Q2. And TS9 might just be under pressure. Snedden's going again though, from P3's over a 10th down at the moment. We've got T-Jerk then in 12th place at the moment. Looking to improve and get himself into the top 10. He needs over a half a second improvement though. Will he manage that as he comes over the line? Very tentative on the accelerator there. And indeed isn't enough to get him in. TS9 though, as you mentioned, TJ, only 10th fastest with a 37.5.
Yeah, he won't be comfortable with that at all. Obviously, we saw quicker for him in Q1. And this is what I'm saying about he's put unnecessary pressure on himself, because I don't think he definitely hasn't got the time to get back to cool down and get back round, and he isn't exactly pushing this lap. So it does look like he's settling for what he set. So I mean, he must back himself for the pace, but surely he'll be disappointed to go out in Q2.
He will, but one of his rivals really to get through to the final part of qualifying, Soprano Legend, has just spun round at Woodcut then, so he will not improve on his time. Will he have enough lap time or tyres? It should be said he lit them up pretty quickly and might have taken a bit of wear out of those 40 seconds left. He should get over the line I would imagine, to get another run in, but as I mentioned, it's whether he has got the tyre life left in those intermediates to improve on his final run if he gets to the line. T-Jerk has also invalidated then. He will also make it to the line. He might just get one more run in. David Lowface half a second down at the moment. Doesn't look like he is going to challenge that time of TS9's. TJ, your 37.5 prediction could be completely spot on here.
I mean, that's a first. We know my cut-off times are always wrong, so thanks guys for actually sticking to the cut-off times. That's really appreciated. Yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's gonna. I mean, yeah, TJX off at 5 attempts down here. Yeah, there's no one that's going to really challenge that now. Although, is TJ on a fast lap here? He might be.
I think he is. I think he just crossed the line in time then. So him and Soprano Legend are the two drivers that could try and squeeze into the final part of qualifying. Active Fox currently down on his time at the moment, but he's 7th and is safe and through to the final part of qualifying. Then it's Soprano Legend, who this time has kept it on the road through Woodcut then and will continue on down to Copse Corner now. Can he keep it from invalidating? Of course, you can't run wide here. I know some people try a little bit of a cheeky trick and continue wide and avoid that invalidation, but he keeps it very cleanly on the inside. But is it fast is the main question through Maggots and Beckett's now. We are about to get an indication of his time. Runs a little bit wide there, so it's a little bit raggedy. He's just under a 10th back on his fastest lap so far. So has he got the time here through the final section? He's got a car ahead of him who gets very quickly out of the way. It's the Mercedes of Active Fox. He's run wide though and invalidated then.
Yeah, so I remember TJ Clinton going through that, and he was a 10th down sector 2 as well, but he's kept it clean into the final corners now. I mean, he'll be hoping to make the time up, but it's a lot to ask for here as he's coming on the final corners. Rides the curb, goes wide. Yeah, didn't improve. Lost a lot of time for them last corners.
The 138.2 from T-Jerky doesn't improve. Soprano Legend might have improved. He was very close to doing so, but unfortunately invalidated by pushing a little bit too much there through the final corner. So we do have our bottom 5 in Q2. But take nothing away from these drivers, TJ. I'm very surprised in these conditions here at Silverstone. We haven't seen more people retire or even spin round. It's been good performance throughout the entire field so far.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and considering as well that most of these drivers probably haven't any practice in the West. We know everyone likes to practice in dry and hope for a dry race. But yeah, it's fantastic performance from these drivers at the moment.
Good performance from the drivers so far, but we are going to lose 5 of them. It is Soprano Legend, Swilzer, T-Jerk, David Lowface, and Bad Tom, who we saw have a very bad day, as he seemed to forget where the track was, heading down the old pit lane, and retired and left the session. So we'll see if he gets back in for the race then. But Nigel Piggle, as we saw there, leads the 2 Alfa Romeos, just shy of half a second ahead of second place man Snedden, the championship leader at the moment. The weather doesn't look like it's improved at the moment. TJ, do you think we're going to see a complete Nigel Piggle walk over here in Q3, or do you think someone can get up alongside him?
No, I think we're going to see a Nigel Piggle walk over here. He's just too quick, and no one's really shown the pace to close that gap either. So I'm going to call it Nigel Piggle on pole.
That's it, you can all retire. We'll set the grid. Nigel Piggle will be on pole for the race. Quickly between sessions, let's go back then to the Twitch chat. 32 viewers at the moment, so we love to see that in the 30s on a Wednesday night. Thank you for choosing FPRL to spend your evening with, at least for the next hour or so, until about 10 PM, of course, when the race will finish. 90% chance of a wet race, it was saying, according to Adrian. Well, thank you for that interesting information there. He had no wet setup, so he was hoping it would be okay in the dry. Yorkie, I think, noticed the Bad Tom incident. Yep, shame for Bad Tom. I'm not good putting a million messages there. Can someone check on Bad Tom? I think he lost the will to live. Yep, potentially. I think we saw that as well. Dope Vipers. Evening, everybody. Nice to see you back again in the chat on the Wednesday evening. Dope Vipers. Let's hear who you've got as your pick for pole position. Nigel Piggle. Oh, hello, friends. You have a chance. Just get faster, he's saying. So his fellow tier 3 drivers. That sums it up. Lola Lulu says everyone else will get the chance in the race when Nigel bins it again. Ooh. Oh dear. Is that a sign of things to come now? If we got a Laura curse this Wednesday night, we'll call it. If he goes out now, we'll call it the Laura curse.
I mean, yeah, that's Laura's definitely cursed in there. I mean, big up Mrs. Locker for doing it. I do notice we have got a hashtag trend going on in the Twitch chat, and it seems to vary. One of them is Piggle Pole. One of them's Piggle. I think that's what we're saying. Nigel Piggle. Someone's put Piggle.
Pigel Piggle.
Pigel Piggle. There we go. Yeah. And we are a PG-friendly stream, obviously, so I won't say what the last word to this is, but it's Piggle ******.
Yeah, of course, PG-friendly on Wednesday evenings. We're not quite past the watershed yet. 13 minutes to go until we can start the expletive language. Of course, we have no idea who's watching this. Dope Viper says Hobley clear of Nigel. Not sure about that. He went out in Q1, so it's not gone well for. I know he's not. He's here. He's in the session. What am I talking about? He's there. He's in the pits. Hobley, Hobnob. I forgot about that. He is in the session. Let's see if Hobley can get pole from Nigel Piggle then. Who seems to be on a fast lap at the moment. He'll be the first driver then to put a time in. Smalls has left the session. No! Get back in for the race, lad. We'll see you hopefully on the grid. Nigel Piggle then coming around the final couple of corners now. Can he get anywhere near that 36.1 which he set in Q2 in this early part of Q3? Crosses the line. A 1:37.3. Unless the track gets to a worse state. That's not the time we was expecting to see from him there.
No, certainly not. Must have made a bit of a mistake. I mean, the vein looks like it does come down. It is coming down heavier though. So maybe the conditions have got worse.
Yeah, well, Mongo with a 38.1 there, so that's slower than what he was able to set as well. Of course, in Q2 at the moment, Tadas I noted was on a lap. I think he's just starting in the lap now then, so it's Snedden then who's gone second, 37.6, so it looks like the times have dropped off indeed.
Yeah, I mean, how much they've dropped off? Could we see the full wets at the end of this? Is this why drivers are out on track and just trying to hammer the lap times in now?
Well, most of them are out early, apart from Willy Bum, who still is in the pit lane. Maybe he knows something that the other 9 drivers don't know. But he has remained in the garage. And he's yet to take to the track, unless he's out of intermediate tyres, of course, because he might only be choosing to run the one set here. And keeping a spare set for the race, which we believe it will be a wet race. With 90% chance. But if the standards in the race are anything to go by in qualifying, then I think we'll see, very good driving standards in the race. That's probably the famous last words there, and we'll have a million safety cars now. As Nigel Piggle crosses the line, he will improve slightly to 37.0, then throws down the gauntlet once more. 6/10 now the gap between him and Snedden. Tadas with a 37.5, just pipping his teammate into second place at the moment. Lots of drivers starting an outlap, but I believe Mongo there, yep, was just behind the Mercedes. 37.7 from him. Locker with a 38.1, unable to get amongst the top 3 or 4, I should say, really, at the moment. So he will obviously look to improve, hopefully, there. We have got a pole up in a pole for pole. up in the chat. Sned and Piggle Prick. Mongo, we're not quite at 9 o'clock yet. Sned and Piggle, Mongo, Locker, Tadas in the poll. Everyone, please take your pick. I really hope TS9 pulls it out the bag here. Gets himself onto pole position. Let's see how he's doing at the moment. He's currently tucked up behind Locker at the moment, TJ. Is there anyone else out on track that you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, we missed it as you were talking about the pole for pole. I'm not good, just on P2 with a 1:37.1. I mean, that is a driver that I called out in Q1. He has done a really decent time there, and I mean, I have seen he's been joking about having sandbags on, so maybe he has released some of that sand from his car and about to challenge Nigel Payne for pole.
Very good indeed. Yeah, great lap from I'm Not Good. I will say it once again, proving he is at least a little bit good there to go P2, just shy of the fast Nigel Piggle. Tadas now as well with a 37.1. The confidence maybe just coming back to the drivers, it would seem. He's able to get right up to I'm Not Good's time. Not quite enough to get into that second place, but does improve. So too does Locker as well, 37.7. I'm just wondering if the track is just starting to come back to the drivers here, TJ.
Yeah, certainly, but the drivers are probably in a bit of a tricky situation here. That they maybe have got a new set of engines in the pits, but do they risk coming in and, you know, risk having them tyres that need a couple laps to really embed in, or do the drivers continue on what they're on now and hope that's enough to get them a decent place for starting?
Yeah, I think Willie Bum was one of those drivers that saved a set of the intermediates in those early runs. Currently the only driver not to put a time in at the moment. He is on a fast lap though. We just saw Active Fox there with a 1:38.5, just shy of Hobnob's time in 7th place. But the two Mercedes at the moment will need to improve on those times if they don't want to be on row 5 for the race. Willie Bum now coming around the final couple of corners. Let's see how he can do then. Can he get himself anywhere near that time with a 37 flat? Comes across the line now. It's a 38.2 from him to line up alongside his teammate. So it is currently line astern for row 4 and 5. 2 Williams and the 2 Mercedes, then 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. 3 minutes to go though, TJ. Plenty of time for drivers to improve.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously now's the time if you want to dive in, get a new set of intermediates on, or even just refuel yourself, another couple laps on board, go back round. But it is a do or die situation, as I can see that Nigel's coming out on a fresh set of intermediates. So he's probably going to get me 2 laps in, probably, I imagine, with the time that's left. So we should have enough time to get them tyres embedded, rubbed up a little bit. And we'll see if we can pull out that 5 temps he's had over the rest of the field.
Well, FPRL Locker has improved as well to stick his McLaren in 4th place, splitting the 2 Alfa Romeos at the moment. 3rd and 5th for them. Active Fox improves with a 1:37.7 then to go 7th. Fastest then gets himself up from P9. Let's see if his teammate can improve. Nigel Piggle on an outlap, about to come around, as you said, get that new set of tyres on and go back around. The pole for pole has been cast, and it is Nigel Piggle leading the way with 8 votes, Snedden with 3, Tadas with the 1. He might have voted himself there if he's watching the stream. Who knows? We can't see who voted for who. But there is 1 vote for Tadas, currently P3 at the moment in the pits. He want to get out quickly. He's coming out of the pits now. Will want to get around quickly if he wants another stab at a time then. FPRL Locker on a slow lap as well. I'm assuming this is TS9 behind him, and TS9, TJ is invalidated again.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, he put that fantastic lap in Q1, straight through to Q2, and he's struggling in Q3. I mean, big shout out to him. I think this is, if I remember right, this is his first Q3 appearance, so that's a fantastic result for the Mercedes driver, but he'll definitely be disappointed he can't get a decent lap in.
It looks like his teammate might be in a position to sneak 7th place from Mongo here, depending on the final sector he is going to have. He was just shy of his fastest time so far, but if the track comes to him here, every chance he can pip that Red Bull into 7th place. Coming across the line now, and unfortunately invalidates at the final corner. It wasn't quite enough anyway. 800ths of his fastest effort so far then, and Snedden, with 30 seconds to go, is about to start then his final flying lap. But Nigel Piggle is the one we want to watch through the final corner here. He was slightly up on his time through sector 2, crosses the line and does improve then into the 136s once again with a 136.9.
Yeah, fantastic. I was on board while he was setting that. He was down in sector 1 by, I think it was a 10th. He did well to pull that back, but he is going back round again for another lap, so let's see if he does improve on his time.
William stays 4th, but improves slightly on his time. Apparently setting a purple final sector there, so good pace from him. I think that'll be his best qualifying so far, if I'm not mistaken. So a good lap from him, of course, depending on what the other drivers around him can do then. I think we've got Active Fox out there at the moment. He's currently slower. TS9 is up on his time, but is also going slow then. So really the ones to watch at this stage are, of course, Snedden and Tadas.
Nigel won't go quick, he's invalidated his lap.
Nigel Piggle invalidating then after that run when he set last time. I think Mongo's back to fear, has he?
Snedden's almost 4 temps up in sector 2. He could be challenging for pole here if he puts in a good sector 3.
Let's see what final sector, final couple of corners Snedden will have then coming around those corners now. Can he keep it clean to the inside of the track in Void, invalidating as we saw from Active Fox earlier. It's only enough for P2, just shy of pole position then, but he's alongside Nigel Piggle for the start of the race then. Mongo into the pits as well. Can Tadas now get anywhere near the front row? Coming around the final couple of corners himself now and across the line, and it's a 1:37.1. Goes third then, beats I'm Not Good in the McLaren, of course the constructors' rivals at this stage of the season. Second and third then for Alfa Romeo, 4th and 6th for McLaren, split by the impressive Willy Bum. Good time from him, as we mentioned. We think is his best qualifying performance so far, but it is indeed the majority of the viewers' pick, and I think the drivers, for it's Nigel Piggle who is on pole for the race then.
Yeah, fun. That from Nigel, you know, we called it through every qualifying, and we call it in the Q3 that he was put on pole. Perhaps closer than he would have wanted, but regardless, he's still dominating the field. And let's see what race pace he's got.
Wasn't quite the walkover we predicted in the end, was it? CJ Snedden just 400ths behind Nigel Piggle then, who couldn't quite find his pace from Q2, but nonetheless takes pole position. The Alfa Romeos of Snedden and Tadas, P2 and 3. I'm Not Good 4th in the McLaren then. Willy Bum 5th. We think it's his best qualifying. Locker in 6th. Mongo in 7th. Nice to see him in Q3 again. Fox up there as well in 8th place. Hobley, the massive Hobley, everywhere he goes in 9th place. TS9. Unfortunately unable to get a representative time in, but good job getting to Q3 for the first time then. Fingers crossed all the drivers don't ready up. I am desperate for the toilet. Absolutely desperate.
It's a wet race.
It is a wet race.
And someone's ready up.
There's a timer. I'm going to the toilet. I can't wait. Leaving the capable hands. I think this has happened every race so far, to be fair. So let's see if we can catch the person out this week, because he's getting beyond a joke now.
Yeah, definitely.
While I'm going to the toilet.
Definitely. I mean, I can see intermediate tyres in the garages, so I'm not expecting a full wets to be out here. But regardless, it's still going to be a hard race for these drivers as we wait for them to set off their formation laps. And I will just pull the time information up to confirm that they are on. I do apologise, they are on full wets. But David Moleface has made a mistake, I think, and started on intermediates, which could be part of the early ready up situation if he was trying to set a strategy. But regardless, so in P20 we've got Diamond, P19 Force Manure, P18's Adria, P17's Panic, P16 we've got Skivid, P15 we've got Bad Tom, who was bigged up in Q2, and yeah, he did that. We won't go over that again, but yeah, hopefully he'll be open for a better race. P14 we've got David Lolface, who's the only driver on intermediate. Maybe he's pulled a blindy here, but we'll have to wait and see. P13 we've got T-Jerk, P12 we've got Swilzy, P11 in his Aston Martin debut, Strano. And then our top 10 for tonight is DS9, who is his best qualifying position as well, I believe. P9 we got Hobnob, P8 Axie Fox, P7 we got Mongo, P6 FPRL Locker, P5 Willy Bum, P4 I'm Not Good, and our top 3 are Tadas, Nedden, and Nigel Piggle. I mean, obviously, wet conditions on here, it's going to be a little bit more tricky for the drivers. I'm just looking up and down the grid quickly, and they obviously warm the tyres up. It looks like they've got good grip. I'm paying a little bit of attention towards David Ballface here, the only driver on intermediate tyres, and he does look like he's struggling ever so slightly, even on the warm-up. But we'll wait and see what he does. The pack has been backed up like anything here. And David Lawface and T have been disqualified, so a bit of contact must have happened. Davey won't be happy with that because then he's on the intermediate tyres.
No. I'm back. He won't. Yeah, the only driver on the intermediate tyres, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, and thank you for that, TJ, once again. Once again, people readying up early. Goodness me, how many times, people? Making me angry now. It's alright, we'll forgive you. At least when you serve your quality ban for the next race, if we've caught you.
Alright.
As Nigel Piggle then lines up in pole position. And at the front of the field, Snedden as well. All the field, yeah, not too far apart really. I think David Lawface hit T-Jerk there on the formation lap. There will be a penalty coming your way, sir, unfortunately, but it is 5 red lights then for the start of the Tier 3 British Grand Prix.
Oh no!
And lights out. 2 drive-through penalties off the start. Then the lights were held for a very long time. It's Nigel Piggle there who leads the drivers down into turn 1. Carnage at the back. I'm not sure what's happened there. Lots of drivers there. I think somebody didn't get away off the grid slot. TS9's been disqualified for going the wrong way.
Oh, no.
Was it him that didn't quite get away from his grid slot? We didn't quite see, but Nigel Piggle has held the lead here. Down then. I'm not quite sure what happened there off the start. 2 drive-throughs, a disqualification, and half the pack held up. Already the gap between first and 19th is 18 seconds then. As they get through Woodcut, coming down to Cops now, Nigel Piggle still leads the way from Snedden off the start.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I think I saw T-Jerk spinning round, but maybe he's the one that hit the back of TS9. I mean, massive disappointment for TS9 there, and really unlucky, I think. He showed some real true pace and qualifying, and to not even make it off the start line. Yeah, I mean, my heart goes out to you lad. But chin up, his pace was definitely there. But yeah, I think there's at least 3 or 4 drivers that need coming for front wings here. It's like 18 gap seconds that you just mentioned. That they're potentially going to be 50 seconds to a minute behind the leader here.
Well, the entire field currently in a half sandwich. Nigel Piggle at the front, swirls it down in P19 at the back. TS9 yet disappointed not to get off the grid even. Whether he got away from his grid position, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if we can get some clarification on that, if anyone is in the stream watching or We'll obviously find out afterwards. Locker and Mongo both serving their drive-throughs early on then. But TJ, it did seem like the lights were held for a very long time there.
Yeah, it did for definite, and I think that's why we saw a couple of jumpers and maybe a couple of people were just held off because they saw that the drive-throughs pop up. But yeah, I've never seen the lights be held that long. One person I'm keeping my eye on currently is David Baldface. He's definitely getting intermediates to work, and he's all over the back of Hobnob here. Maybe he's pulled the blinder over the rest of the field.
6.7 seconds, the gap from the leader, of course. The gap between him and Hobnob, half a second now, so he's able to follow in the early phase of this race. Sneddon's not letting Nigel Piggle get out of his sight, and he's trying to bring his teammate along with him for the ride. A further 1.4 seconds back off his teammate Sneddon. I've just got a message there from TS9. It says, cheers comms team, I moved off the line and I believe a jump start came across me. Very disappointing for TS9. Really looks like he was really a passenger off the start of the race, and he had the pace today. It will take no further part, of course, in the race as Nigel Piggle comes into the pits.
Yeah, I think the intermediate tyres are tyres B on here, I think. Adrian's come back out on intermediate as he coming for a front wing change. So let's see what Nigel does here.
We're riding on board with Nigel Piggle. We can't go in any other camera angle. The guinea pigs are getting very excited about what we're about to see. And it is the intermediate tyres then. Nigel Piggle for the intermediates. Has David Longface played that blinder we were speaking about? He's definitely had the pace to keep up with Hobnob. Have the team told Nigel Piggle here to come into the pits? I know he got a 5-second penalty though coming into the pit lane. Whether that will play a part later on in the race will be seen, unfortunately for him. But out on intermediates from the lead. Was it worth taking the gamble, TJ, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, David's going to double overtake done here potentially. He's got one done. Oh, I think he had to back up slightly because the cars were close, but he's all over the back of Hobnob and Willie Bum here. The guys in the wets are definitely struggling.
And Nigel Piggle's just performed an overtake on Locker after just coming out of the pits. And let's ride out with David Longface, who was the driver to select the intermediate tyres from the start of the race, and as we've mentioned, able to keep up with Willie Bum and Hobnob, the two Williams then. Less than half a second adrift off them. It does look like he has got the pace. And as we mentioned, has he played an absolute blinder here? Because the gap between him and Nigel Piggle now is, let's work it out, is about 17 seconds, 18 seconds. And of course, Nigel Piggle was the one leading the race in this early phase. Will they all come into the pits? Yes, they do. Sneddon into the pits then. Other drivers coming in as well now. So yeah, the intermediates clearly the tyres to be on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do feel sorry for David Baldface. He's been held up so much by Willie Bum and Hobnob. But regardless, these guys in front of him are definitely going to have to pay. The wet tyres don't look like they're sticking at all. I think effectively David is the race leader. Yeah.
Once the top four come into the pits, he's the race leader by some distance, it should be said as well. It'll be interesting to see if Sneddon gets the jump on Nigel Piggle. Doesn't. He does come out behind Nigel. It's probably going to be interesting here to see the gap between these two, because of course, before Nigel Piggle came into the pits, Sneddon was about under a second, wasn't he, back from the Haas.
Yeah, he was.
So let's see.
David's got moved on Willie Bum here. He was quite actually pushing Willie Bum round the corner onto the straight. He's got so much more pace over these wet runners here.
Adrian now, fastest lap on the intermediate tyres, a 1:41.5 from him then. I think this is, TJ, I've got to be honest with you, this is probably the first time in all the league races that I've watched, all the league races that I've taken part in, that I have seen a driver make such a bold move at the start of a race, and it's really paid off here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously his side of Ferrari guys had information that other teams don't have, but he's definitely playing an absolute blinder over the rest of the field, and you know, assuming it keeps nice and clean, he's he's potentially on for a decent podium here. As Tadas and I'm not good dive into the pits, Hobnob's decided to stay out, but Hobnob's just destroying his own race here because these wet tyres. I mean, up and down the field, these wet tyres are just falling off so quick, and they're struggling on these tyres.
Plenty of penalties being racked up for speed lane speeding violations. 5 seconds all over the place for many drivers. I've been unable to get an interval time between Nigel Pickle and Snedden. I wanted to see how much time Snedden lost. There it is. It was around 2.5 seconds then the gap now between the two of them. So that's how much difference there was doing the one lap on the intermediates. And as you said, yeah, David Lawface now technically the de facto race lead at the moment, the minute that Hobnob comes into the pits. But both Williams at the minute, both Hobnob and Willybum yet to pit, and this is ruining their race, as you said. And they were looking like they were on for good points earlier on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just looking at the gap between David and Willybum here, I mean, David's just gained at least 3-4 attempts just out that small sequence of corners. So it just proves how much these wet tyres aren't working anymore. As we see most of the grid now onto the intermediate tyres, and the guinea pigs are loving this action.
Guinea pigs are absolutely going mental. They are cheering David Lawface on all the way here, but he does need to clear Hobnob as soon as he can, because Nigel Pickle is really on the pace now and looking to make up the time that he lost from starting on the wrong compound of tyre. Hobnob does finally come into the pits, and that might push Willybum to go round another lap then. And no, they're going to double stack at Williams, it seems.
What a nightmare from the Williams drivers there. I'm really surprised one didn't hit the lap before, as I think you mentioned it as well. But yeah, it's a double stack. I mean, you've only lost enough time being on them tyres, but Willybum is going to lose so much more time being stuck behind, well, waiting for the pit crew to be ready for him now.
Gap between David Lawface and Nigel Pickle now down to 7 seconds already. Nigel Pickle really on the pace. Seems David Lawface was really held up by those drivers on the wets. Of course he was, because he couldn't put the intermediates to use, and he was stuck behind those Williams for a good few laps. And he might have had the pace, but he was unable to make the most of it. Now Nigel Pickle gets the gap between him and David down to 6.5 seconds. The only two drivers still out there on wet tyres for some reason, Bad Tom and Panic, and Bad Tom who's just been passed then by Nigel Pickle. So it is David Lawface first, Nigel Pickle second, and essentially Snedden in third at the moment. The last thing David Lawface wants here is penalties, as he's just got. But I was going to say a safety car is of course the last thing he wants here, because he's got a good gap. Even if Nigel Pickle and Snedden catch him, he's got a good gap to Tadas here of 15 seconds that he can make the most of.
Oh yeah, for definite, and we already know Nigel's got a 5-second penalty for speed in the pit lane, so that obviously, effectively Nigel's 10 seconds behind. But yeah, I mean, David's, I know we keep saying it, but David saw something that other drivers didn't see, and he'll be over the moon with what he's done in his first 7 laps.
Played an absolute blinder in the opening phase of this race then. Just over a quarter distance so far. Unbelievably, we still have nearly 3/4 to go. Active Fox then. And now I'm Not Good setting the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:39.4. Seems like the track though is going to start coming towards the drivers. It'll be interesting to see if we are going to see any dry running by the end of this race then. TJ, what's going on down further through the field then? Is anyone battling for position at the moment?
No, not really. The fields, I mean, Martin goes all over the back of TJ's side, and there's little battles from probably P13 down to P16. Also, there was a little battle going on, but Skivage dropped back a little bit. But yeah, the field's pretty. There's massive gaps in the field going up and down, and I imagine that's simply because some of the drivers got caught up by the wet tyre situation and decided to stay out.
Tyres, yeah. They might have been caught out on the tyres, and another thing they've been caught out on is that 37 mile an hour speed lane, reduced obviously for this track. And as you can see on the penalties there, lots of drivers with a 5-second penalty. You've got Skivid Mongo, Soprano Legend, Bad Tom's picked up a 5-second, Diamond, I'm Not Good, Active Fox, Nigel Piggle, all of them picking up 5-second penalties, TJ, for speeding in the pit lane. So if any Tier 1 or Tier 2 drivers are watching this stream, the one thing to take away is be careful of that pit lane speed.
Yeah, for certain. I think the wet tyres probably had a part in that as well. I mean, if they were overheating in, let's face it, they were falling away from the drivers, that perhaps they just applied the brakes a little bit too much and they just couldn't slow the car enough, quick enough.
Yeah, of course, all different in the wet conditions. We'll see if the weather does gradually improve. We're watching Bad Tom at the moment, 8 seconds of penalties for himself, unable to keep up with Locker, who's holding on to the last of the points at the moment in 10th, and he's one of 6 drivers, I should say, at the moment, that are running with no penalties at present. A few drivers with corner cutting penalties, of course. It's always more difficult in wet conditions to keep it clean. Silverstone, I don't think, is particularly massive for corner cutting, especially compared to Canada last week, but a few drivers falling foul so far. One driver who hasn't fell foul at the moment is Hobnob, who's in 8th place at the moment. No penalties for him, TJ, but we were discussing this with the Williams drivers. The call to go so late on the intermediates seems to have caught them out. Just thinking 2 laps sworn, to do 20 laps if they want to go to the end. It's a big ask if that's what they were trying on those wet tyres.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we saw it in the Tier 2 race in Spain where most drivers try pushing an intermediate one stop. Obviously, Spain a different scenario, but the two-stopper was definitely quicker there, and we were seeing a few undercuts for definite. And I can probably see the same situation happening here. If especially if the Williams drivers, if they do try to push to the end in, we don't see any dry tyres. I think they're going to be caught out by a potential second stop by all these drivers, and they won't have an answer at all.
Yeah, if that's their plan, we'll see if that works. Of course, it's all dependent on safety cars. And Nigel Piggle has closed up to the back of David Longface. I don't think we're surprised necessarily at that one, but now is a test as to how defensive David Longface wants to get in that Ferrari. How much does he want to hold up Nigel Piggle? Will this play into Snedden's hands? He's only a couple of seconds back off the Haas at the moment. Can David Longface do Snedden a favour here? Of course, no DRS in the wet conditions, so it'll have to be what some people will call a pure overtake without any overtaking aids for Nigel Piggle. But do you expect him to breeze past him? Do you think David's going to really try and be a bit of a defensive driver here against Nigel Piggle?
I think David will try to hold him up as much as he can. David will see this as a nice place to get some decent points. For Ferrari team and himself in the championship. So yeah, I can see David holding up, which will only play in Snedden's favour, obviously. As he does go a bit wide, and there's a bit of side-by-side action going on here. Nigel does take the lead. Yeah, I think David got pushed a little bit wide there, potentially. I think that's just dropped him back a place, but even so, Snedden is all over the back of these two drivers now.
Yeah, Nigel Piggle does make his way through then, up and past David Longface. It looked like, the Ferrari driver just went a little bit deep into the corner and unable to keep up with Nigel Piggle then, who retakes the lead of the British Grand Prix then at the moment. As you mentioned, Snedden right behind him now. David Longface looking very skittish at the moment with those rears. Just wondering how much they're worn now, and will he start to feel the effects of tyre wear on lap 10 of 26, and how quickly will Snedden manage to clear the Ferrari then? Will Nigel Piggle be able to rebuild that gap up to his championship competitor at the moment in Snedden? They've dropped Tadas by some distance, it should be said, over 8 seconds back now. Tadas still running strong in P4 with no penalties though, so perhaps playing the long game there. But one thing I did notice is that David Longface really has conserved that ERS. Obviously it's a wet track, so naturally it harvests a little bit more, but he really has managed to hold on to more ERS, especially compared to those drivers around him.
Yeah, he has. I mean, Nigel's absolutely rinsed. He's pretty much running empty. Yeah, Dave's doing a fantastic job with the RS management. I think he's just let Sned him through there. I think he knows that Evans' battle, and if he keeps it like this for how far back Tadas is, he's on for really good points. So Dave is probably playing the long game now.
Yeah, very clever driving from the Ferrari man. He knows that he hasn't got the pace to keep up with Nigel Pickle or Snedden, but through his genius, perhaps he can try and claw very good points, if not a podium. I imagine he's dreaming of at the moment. But if he was to pit now, because we think his tyres are getting a little bit shoddy, he would come out, I think, between Hobnob and Willy Bum, perhaps just behind Willy Bum, even in 9th place. So it would drop him back, but of course with the caveat that the rest of the field would probably have to pit as well. I wonder if Snedden's thinking at the moment of this 5-second penalty for Nigel Pickle, because of course that changes everything for Snedden's race. Of course, with that 5-second penalty, he knows he hasn't got to quite push as much, because when Nigel Pickle inevitably comes in for that second stop, he will be held for 5 seconds longer, and of course then Snedden will get that back position.
Yeah, definitely. As T-Jerk has dropped in Sector 1, been unfortunate for him. But that has dropped him down to P16, but he's got a massive gap behind him between him and his teammate, actually. I'm just looking up and down the field. Adrian isn't really making much pace up, considering the pace we saw from him in Canada. He is struggling down in P14. One job to keep an eye on, actually, is Active Fox. I've been monitoring him throughout a couple of actions. He is, I won't say he's all over the back of Tadas, but he's certainly matching him and keeping up with him.
Yeah, I've just noticed that myself. We're currently riding with Active Fox at the moment, less than a second currently back from Tadas in 4th place, who's making good ground on the top 3, or should I say David Lawface, who currently occupies that 3rd spot. So he's dragging Active Fox along with him, and I'm Not Good looking to get involved in this little battle for 4th place as well, only a second back off the Mercedes at the moment. Of course, Active Fox and I'm Not Good carrying that 8 seconds worth of penalties, so that will of course hamper them towards the end of the race. But a lot of these drivers that got those 5-second penalties, they will be able to serve them before the end of the race. So of course the game for some reason only lets you serve a penalty if it's a multiple of 5. So these drivers that have 8 seconds at the moment, they will be able to serve 5 seconds worth of those penalties. So Active Fox and I'm Not Good might only have 3 seconds by the end, of course, if we get any kind of safety cars out in the process. But again, TJ, it's what we saw in qualifying. These drivers, they're living up to the wet conditions at the moment. We've not seen many drivers go round. I know we've seen T-Jerk and we had a bit of an incident at the start, but for the most part, driving standards for the field has been really good so far.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I think this has been a repeat for every race, actually. I think we had a bit of a bad race last week, potentially, but the tier 3 guys are so clean, and, they do show up some of the upper tiers. I won't drop which tier I'm talking about, but I mean, if people do follow closely, they know what I'm about. But yeah, the tier 3 guys are once again showing up everyone for just how clean they're being, and, just everyone being in it. I mean, obviously we lost TS9 off the line, but that was a bit unfortunate. But yeah, it's just nice to see.
Yeah, that's what we want, really. Nice, clean, fair racing as well. Of course, that's what we're all about at Fair Play Racing League, and that's what Tier 3 are definitely putting on show tonight. And we have seen some very clean and fair racing, obviously, apart from that incident off the line. And sometimes those things happen. And we've got a title fight in our hands as well in Tier 3. That's what people tune in for. This is why they're here. Clean racing, a title fight. What more can you ask for? Well, perhaps Nigel Pickle not to be in Tier 3, because he's currently leading at the moment by just short of 2 seconds to Snedden. He's managed to maintain that gap at around that distance. One gap that has come down massively is the one between Tadas and David Lawface then. Let's have a look for tyres. Where's tyres? There we go. I can find it in the end. 5 lap pressure tyres for Tadas, and that might explain some of the pace difference between the two drivers. I'm sure Alfa Romeo would love to come away from here with a double podium finish. I did mention that no matter what happens today, Alfa Romeo will be leading the Constructors' Championship, but if it finishes like this, then all they're going to do is increase their advantage in the Constructors. They're looking mighty at the moment, aren't they, as a pairing, TJ?
Yeah, they are. You know, obviously T3 drivers are a bit unknown, and we didn't know truly who a strong pairing was, but yeah, these two drivers they're probably the strongest pairing in Tier 3, and slowing them down at the moment.
The moment between Snedden and Tadas, of course, we've seen a raw pace kind of difference between the two of them. We're seeing it again, plays a little bit to the point in which he kind of knows that it's not in the driver's hook, perhaps. You know, I know we're only on round 8, but do you think that if, you know, perhaps got Snedden coming up behind him, do you think he kind of thinks, you know, oh, Snedden's the best bet for the drivers at the moment? Do you think it's a little bit too early on to play those kind of games?
At that stage now where, you know, the drivers are teammates and thinking, you know, that they're up for a championship here or a challenge for a championship. I'll let him through on his mind, but regardless, you know, he's still pushing his points off from there, so he is helping the team in that instance. And you never know, maybe he's using it as a drive himself to get quick, so that, you know, maybe next season he can push.
Definitely, and we hope he sticks around. Good old Tadas, very good, clean, fast racing driver, of course, as we've seen from him so far. Two teammates that have been matched today in terms of pace. We saw it in qualifying, and now we're seeing it in the race. The Williams pairing of Hobnob and Willibum working together at the moment, but TJ, that Willibum has got a slight pace advantage at the moment over Hobnob, but of course it's always more difficult to overtake in the wet. Do you think, I think Hobnob's in there as a substitute tonight for the Williams team in place of Magsy, so of course maybe he's not thinking about the as much, but do you think Willibum would be hoping that that's Magsy in that car and perhaps he gave way and let him do what he can do in terms of pace?
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, it's you want to talk each other out, but on track, you want to try getting as many points as possible. But I think in that scenario between Willibum and Hobnob, that if I was in Hobnob, see pulling to the side and laying him through, and you know, setting him loose onto it like I'm not good. I mean, at this point, it's still probably too early to call a pit stop for him, but maybe Willibum is thinking of calling an earlier pit stop and then trying to overtake him through the undercut.
Yeah, looks like Willibum's going to have to race against his temporary teammate for tonight. We're watching Tadas now, right behind David Lowface. Let's see how quickly he can get past the Ferrari. There's no need to be heartened at the moment. David Lowface, of course, in 3rd place at the moment. You've still got a good gap to 7th place in Diamond, around 8 to 10 seconds. Of course, all the drivers will most likely have to pit again unless the Williams try and edge their bets and go to the end of the race. Speaking of Williams drivers, Willibum will cheer you up if you're fed up behind Hobnob, of course, with a bit of golf with friends after the race. A little golf with your friends, Merchant. We'll see that later on. Tadas still can't quite clear Ferrari driver at the moment, and there's a little bit of a queue of cars now. This queue behind David Lowface has brought I'm Not Good right into contention here with Active Fox and Tadas in terms of at least on track position.
Yeah, I mean, Tadas obviously wouldn't want this. As you mentioned, it is hard overtaken in conditions, so that is happening to Tadas slightly. But yeah, Tadas will be open to clear David soon and put that gap up between him and Active Fox and I'm Not Good. But I imagine that David's probably going to look at pitting this lap, if not next. He is struggling with them tyres, and the rear does look like it's beginning to really give up on him. So maybe he can pull the pace back out that way. But yeah, the battle for P3 is looking really tight, to be honest.
It is looking tight, yeah, and Tadas still can't clear David Lowface. Ooh, look like Tadas looking like a bit of a dive up the inside. of David Lopez and does, I think, tapped him slightly there on the exit of the corner. Getting very frustrated now at being held up behind the Ferrari of his rivals for the moment. Oh, a bit of contact between the two of them. And now Active Fox looks like he's got the jump on Tadas up the inside. Looks like David Lopez might have ran Tadas a little bit wide, but I think David Lopez was entitled to the corner as he was ahead on track, it seemed, and it just looked like Tadas got a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, that's definitely what it looked like. You know, you have got to be patient in these wet conditions. And yeah, he just lost his patience and wanted to get it done. But that's cost him dearly. And I mean, Vish doesn't register any damage, but has he got any damage that we can't see? You know, as he potentially just ruined his own race by not being patient.
He's able to keep up at the moment with this train, but of course Active Fox is paced by David Lopez just ahead of him. Battle for P3, we just saw on screen there, Diamond into the pits and rejoined in 13th place, and he's still carrying that 5-second penalty. I think he got one for speeding in the pit lane on a fresh set of intermediate tyres. Doesn't look like we're going to get any dry running, so the drivers had a miserable day of it really, a wet qualifying and a wet for good measure as, oh my word, there's a huge gaggle of cars. It looks like there's going to be 3 abreast here. And David Lopez still comes out ahead of Tadas. Well, Tadas running back up the inside. Looks like he might have finally got the move done. And he has up the inside of David Lopez, and he does get ahead. But oh, Tadas looking to retake it. Maybe passed him off track there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it didn't look like Tadas didn't move off track, so I think he's had to give the place back. Once again, frustration from the Alfa Romeo driver. He just can't stay patient enough. He's obviously, but he just isn't finding the right spot to do to get the overtake done.
Well, Tadas then rejoins in P5. One thing we forgot, in all that excitement, got missed. Nigel Piggle picked up another 3-second penalty, so I wonder what that's going to do to the lead of the race at the end in just under, I should say, 9 laps time now. As Active Fox now gets ahead of David Lopez, and he's got about a 2-second gap now to this little gaggle of cars.
Yeah, Active Fox done really well here. Tadas is looking for a move. Is he going to do Lewis Hamilton? Both drivers expected this contact. David does go wide, and David's lost 2 positions in 1 corner.
David giving it up there to Tadas, and I'm not good, showing Max Verstappen how it's done, of course, by running wide. That's how you don't end up in the barrier, my friend. And yeah, David gets past by I'm not good, and Tadas, who's finally ahead of the Ferrari, and now can set about chasing down Active Fox once again. Drivers in the pits though, and
he has gone on to the softs.
Yeah. I was going to mention that.
Surely that's a mistake.
He's onto the soft tyres. There's still rain falling on the screen. David Lopez finally into the pits then, so we'll get rid of it. With DRS enabled, TJ.
So the cutover was
interesting.
And David Lopez pulling another blind to here.
He's gone onto the soft tyres.
So, I mean, I was surprised he not come into the pit sooner to get rid of his tyres, but I think he might just play another blinder potentially.
Yeah, so David Lopez and TJ both into the pits for soft tyres, and DRS enabled, as we saw at the top of our screens, have the team's radio to the drivers, and that they believe the soft tyre is the best choice, but it doesn't look like it on track. It looks very wet out there still. Rain still falling as well, as we can see on our screens, droplets on the camera, the T-cam. So it'll be interesting to see if any of the leaders also take this gamble. Diamond has come into the pits and gone on the medium tyres now from 13th place. Bit as well in the pits of soft tyres. Will Nigel Piggle come into the pits? Yes, he does then.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, as you remember looking on our screens here, so I mean, fair play for the drivers coming in and putting the soft tyres on, but the conditions still don't look right. But I mean, Yeah, on board with David Lawface is a good example here. Bad Tom was all over him into the first couple of corners, but he's just pulled a second out on him in about 2-3 corners. So it's definitely a tyre to be on.
Now I'm just wondering if in different parts of the track, as it looks like the rain has stopped falling now, and he is about to get past Mongo as well. It looks like there's so much water on the track, but yeah, perhaps it's different parts of the track at the moment. As you said, Bad Tom able to follow closely behind David Lawface up until Sector 2 and 3, and now he's got the Pacers who have David Lawface and T-Jerk, who were the first to go onto the slick tyres. Played an absolutely beautiful strategy. It'll be interesting to see where this Ferrari driver ends up in the end. And it is going to be 4th place, just behind Tadasen. But one thing we didn't spot there, TJ, and all of that is Snedden has gone ahead, but there's a safety car, virtual safety car at the moment anyway.
Yeah, Skivage just dropped it. I don't know what the call number is, but I'm trying to get on board with Aston Martin driving now, and it's Panic. I mean, I don't know how he's dropped it there, to be honest.
Let's have a look. I think he's just run wide. I think he's just lost the back end through cops, to be honest. Ended up on the inside of the track. Car has been cleared away. Virtual safety car out at the moment. Doesn't look like we're going to get a full safety car, and we are back green then. As I mentioned, the car has gone. But yeah, Nigel Piggle then has been passed by Snedden in all of this. TJ says he's lost me for some reason. I don't know what. I think that was a problem on your end. I can hear you. Drivers struggling then with the slick tyres and wet conditions. Nigel Piggle we saw running wide off the final corner. He knows he's got to pass Snedden and get 3 seconds worth of a gap in order to win this race today. But Snedden at the moment currently in the lead. Got the jump in the pit stops, and looks like the Hearts might have been held. They both pitted on the same lap, so there was no undercut or overcut or anything like that. It just looks like Nigel Piggle was held, but with the DRS assistance, of course, are we going to see a pass for the lead? Nigel Piggle at the inside of Snedden, and it's an easy overtake into the braking zone then. Yeah, definitely, but sitting P4 at the moment, David Lawface, nothing to be sniffed at, and with only 3 seconds worth of penalties, looks very good for that P4. He'll be grateful at any big haul of points today. The big question is now, from lap 22 we're about to start till the end of the race, can we see now? Can we see Nigel Piggle pull out this 3 seconds worth of a gap till the end of the race? We've seen drivers struggle on the tyres. We've seen Active Fox, Force Manure, Skivid all retire in the space of a lap. Oh! I think Nigel Piggle's just hit the back of Panic End. He's getting out of his way. Just caught it on stream there. I don't know if Nigel Piggle got any front wing damage in that. Looks okay at the moment, looks graphically okay, but it'll be interesting to see if he's got any damage we don't know about. Obviously, we'll have to monitor the gap, but Panic End just seemed to just sit in the middle of the track there and not take any awareness for these leaders. Or maybe he's just thinking that there's no point at this stage. Yeah. I think he's been caught out by a strategy here. Perhaps not thinking it's worth it coming into the pits. He stays out once again and look to take those intermediates to the end of the race. He might beat Adrian if he's lucky. He's 35 seconds adrift with 17 seconds of penalty, so I think he'll be okay there. Nigel Pickle sets the fastest up of the race, but it's not enough to get that gap up to Snedden, so Snedden still looking good for the win at the moment then. Through the field, it was worth noting that Willy Bum looked like he lost out. I'm assuming he double stacked with his teammate, and he's currently about 4.5 seconds adrift of Hobnob in P6 at the moment, and with 6 seconds more in terms of pounds as well. It'll be a bit hard to call the final position of the field with the amount of penalties we're seeing at the moment. So we'll have to get the calculators out and a spreadsheet, of course. TJ loves a spreadsheet every now and then. But yeah, Nigel Pickle unable to pull out that gap at the moment. We've got a yellow flag out. Adrian has retired. And it's a safety car. Well, that's interesting because Adrian was 35 seconds adrift from the rest of the field. He's dropped it, put it straight in the wall, and now the safety car is out. Nigel Pickle into the pits then, perhaps seizing the gap between himself and Tadas. He knows now that he has to get in and out quickly, build up some. That podium can still be on for him here. Yeah, just a change of tyres, but this late safety car really looks like then it's cost Nigel Pickle the chance at a win. Surely now, with those penalties, at 6 seconds worth of penalties, the safety car, as we know, will come in at the end of this lap, I believe, because the game, unless there's been an update, the game has programmed to give at least 2 laps of running, as we saw from Spain in Tier 2. The safety car, the game is programmed to give at least 2 laps of running. They don't just do a last lap. So this won't benefit the likes of T-Jerk or Panic End at the back of the field. Yeah, safety car will surely come in now. We'll see the message shortly. There we go. As predicted, yeah. It doesn't let the field bunch back up. It's... Oh dear, oh dear. David Lawface! David Lawface got the front wing, yeah. Oh wow. Oh no. Oh, David Lawface in the pits for a new front wing. Of course, Nigel Pickle will try and carry on round. He's got front wing damage, as we can see, that the safety car restart gets us underway. It's Alfa Romeo 1 and 2 at the moment. There is a back marker in there as well. I think it's T-Jerk gets out of the way of Tadas. The fight for the win now between these 2 Alfa Romeo drivers. Surely Snedden looks like he's got this wrapped up, though, based on his pace so far in the race. But what a shame for David Lawface. It looked like he was going to be on for a podium, potentially. That 8 seconds worth of penalties now. He's served 5 seconds in the pits. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh. think, to be fair to Nigel Pickle, he's only got minor front wing damage. I think he's entitled to race the drivers until the end now. But he's down to 8th place. Yeah, he's lost an end fence. He's got 11 seconds of penalties at the moment. Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, I think he's okay to carry on racing at the moment with that level of damage. Tadas, it should be said, has kept the gap down between him and his teammates under a second here, so we could see a final lap shootout depending on how close Tadas can get to the back of Snedden. Of course, no DRS, unfortunately for him. But a fight between the two Alfa Romeo drivers, I would still expect Snedden to have this one wrapped up. But it looks like on penalties then, that Hobley is massive apparently wherever he goes. And Hobley might get himself a podium here, even on the penalties. Oh, is he just picked up another 6 seconds there? But another 3 seconds should we say. 6 seconds now, but he should be okay. He's been passed by Soprano Legend now. It looks like now Soprano Legend is currently on for the podium based on the penalties. What is going to happen before the end of the race here? Absolutely crazy action thanks to that last safety car. Thanks Adrian for giving us an absolutely blistering final couple of laps. As predicted, I think Snedden has got the race win wrapped up. But let's see who's going to get P3. Is it going to be Hobnob trying to go up the inside of Soprano Legend here? Battle here for what is surely going to be P3 on the track. And it is going to be Soprano Legend. It does just about keep it over the line, but there's a battle here between Mongo as well. But it is Soprano Legend who gets the P3. Wow, what a last couple of laps there. An absolutely crazy race there, and the heartbreak of it all is that David Lowface, who was on for very good points, if not a podium there, P11 doesn't even get a single point for his hard work. He'll be so disheartened with that. Really, really disheartened. But it is the two Alfa Romeos, and it is Snedden who wins the Tier 3 British Grand Prix. Sorry for the last few laps there, that was absolutely insane. Sorry, we couldn't keep up there. We absolutely could not keep up. And yeah, we could not keep up with all the action that was happening over the last 2 laps there. But it is that man there on the top of the podium who takes the 25 points. I don't know who got fastest lap. He gets 25 points. He might have got 26, who knows. But he does get the win here. Another win for Snedden 69 with his teammate in second. Maximum points then for the Alfa Romeo team. Who can stop this Tier 3 dominance from the Alfa Romeo team? It is indeed 42 points. I should say 43. The fastest lap went to Diamond in P12. Soprano P3, his first podium I think in FPRL. Did he get a podium around Baku? I think it was maybe. It might be second. Don't know. I haven't got the stats with me. Definitely, yeah. First podium with his Aston Martin team. As you mentioned, TJ Hobnob, still 4th place for Williams. What a finish for him. Temporarily fills that seat in place of Magsy Willibum in 5th. Stuck behind his teammate for the majority of the race. and stays stuck behind him in the finishing results. I'm Not Good 6th, Mongo 7th, FPR Locker 8th. The McLaren boys needing to do better in future races if they want to challenge the Alfa Romeos at the top of the standings. Nigel Piggle, oh dear, 9th place for him, and perhaps some post-race drama to come from that as well. And rounding off the points finishes in 10th place, Bad Tom, and I believe that's his first point of the season, so good work there, Bad Tom, to get that 10th place. Let's see if we can get into the party for some interviews. We've got Snedden and Soprano Legend here at the moment. Let's see if Tadas in to join us. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can hear from our second place man. If not TJ, is there anybody else that you wanted to get in for an interview if possible? Let's see if we can get him involved in the interview. If not, I think a good person to interview might be Adrian, actually, who caused that last bit of drama. If we can get him in, potentially, if we don't get David involved. But we'll kick ourselves underway, as David does join the party very sportingly. So we'll just kick ourselves off with third place at the moment, Soprano Legend. Fantastic performance from you in the end of the race. I get a feeling it was helped out by the safety car in the end. But just talk us through your qualifying. Of course, it was wet all the way through. Qualifying, we've seen a bit of pace from you previously, but did you think your qualifying performance, you had a little bit more to give there? If you're here.
Hello?
And you've included your audio. There we go.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't have my little microphone component plugged in. Yeah, qualifying was, I think it was probably as good as it could have gone. I managed to get out of Q1, Q2, finished in 11th place. I'm not too fussed about that because obviously it was wet conditions. I knew I had a little bit more pace about me. And then, qualifying was good, and yeah, happy with where I started.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Obviously, where you ended up. A little bit of a quiet race up until that point. Just want to talk us through the early part of your race, because obviously we saw the field quite spread out after the opening lap, but we were kind of seeing, kind of battles up and down the field. Just want to talk us through, obviously, what happens before the safety car kind of period and up until that point, where you were kind of ish.
Yeah, so I got a really good start off the line, and I think I went from about P11 up to P8 or 7. So I remember when I got Baku, I said I'm quite a big fan of the way that I start racing. I think even in the wet conditions today, it was the same old, but then I got spun by a Mercedes. I'm not entirely sure who it was. So I feel like I should have probably been higher up the field earlier on in the race, but unfortunately, because of the spin, I was down to about P14. Noticed people boxing for intermediates, so I went in myself, and then there was a battle with the two Red Bulls, throughout the whole race until that safety car point, which I really, really enjoyed. Was a little bit nervous about my fuel consumption though, because I underfueled, just thinking it was going to be a full wet race. But no, went onto the soft tyres, and I think I did about 3 or 4 laps on the soft tyres, and then the safety car came out.
Something I wanted to touch upon really, obviously, with those soft tyres. I mean, from up here in the commentary box, it did not look like the track at all was ready for those soft tyres. I think T-Jerk and David Lawface were the first 2 drivers to go onto the slick tyres. Was that a call that you got from the team, or did you personally think yourself that it was ready for the slick tyres?
So it was actually still raining, and I got a message from Jeff saying there's a new. It said to box this lap, or to box on. I think it was lap 19 for.
Has it been cut off there? Oh, there we go. Yeah, no, brilliant call in the end by the team then to bring you in and get those soft tyres on. Obviously, we saw that safety car period towards the end there. I think that brought you into contention, obviously, for the podium, having seen the pace of the front three and obviously everything that unfolded behind that safety car. You took the best. We saw you overtake on the last lap there to get that podium place. Did you kind of know the penalties ahead of you, and did you know that overtake was on the line for the P3? No, fantastic race. Your second P3, of course, in FPRL. Hopefully for you, you can get yourself into P1 or P2 next week in Austria if you're racing then. So congratulations on your podium. I'll hand over to TJ, who will interview. I think we've got David Lowface in here. It'll be interesting to get his perspective, and he'll interview our winner, Mr. Snedden. No, I was just going to say, yeah, no, fantastic. In terms of the decisions for the tyres, really, to start the intermediates and the softs, and it would have played off really well for you, obviously, until that last safety car. So well done on that one. And we'll hand over back to TJ to interview the race winner, Snedden. Well, I think that's the end of the the stream tonight, then thank you to everyone for joining for those interviews. David Lawface, Soprano Legend, and Snedden. Congratulations to the latter two, of course. Commiserations to David Lawface, who unfortunately had that incident, but was on for good points until then. Join us once again tomorrow for the Tier 1 race around the same circuit at the same time, 8 PM GMT. Of course, tomorrow and Friday, where you'll find the Tier 1 and Tier 2s. We're back next week with Austria, of course, same time on Wednesday. I'm assuming it'll be myself and TJ, but that's yet to be confirmed. We'll find out very shortly. But thanks once again for tuning in, and hopefully we see you later this week, and indeed this time next week as well. So goodbye from me, and goodbye from everyone that's stuck around in the pie.
Hey!
As people